Recording in progress.
They are trickling in.
All right, it's 6 o'clock, July 6th. Welcome everyone to the meeting. Let's go ahead and start roll call, please.
Commissioner Fuentes,
Present.
Commissioner Kreiner,
Here.
Commissioner Wagner, Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Commissioner Hardy,
Here.
Commissioner Bray, Chair Ving.
Here. So we will now begin the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please stand. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I will now read the procedures. This meeting is being conducted in person and electronically. The public may participate in tonight's meeting by using the Zoom link provided on the Planning Commission agenda. Please note that all virtual participants will be on mute until they are called upon by the chair, at which point they will be unmuted. If you are a member of the public and would like to comment on an item, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. To avoid any confusion, please wait for the item you desire to comment on to be called by the chair before electronically raising your hand. For each matter considered by the commission, there will first be a staff presentation, followed by a presentation from the project applicant. Testimony from supporters of the project will then be taken, followed by testimony from those in opposition. The applicant will have the right to a final rebuttal presentation prior to closing the public hearing. In accordance with Section 13 of Article 2 of the Planning Commission Rules and Regulations governing the length of public debate, all public testimony from those in support and in opposition of the project will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The 3 lights on the podium next to the microphone will indicate the amount of time remaining for the speaker. The green light will turn on when the speaker begins. The yellow light will come on with the soft bell ring when 1 minute is remaining. The speaker should be completing the testimony by the time the red light comes on with the final bell indicating time has expired. All in-person public testimony must be presented to the commission at the podium. Any testimony that references race, religion, ethnicity, economic status, national origin, or any other classification protected under state or federal law in a derogatory manner shall be deemed irrelevant and will not be considered by the commission in making its land use determinations. If you challenge these land use matters in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised in oral or written testimony or before the close of the hearing. Next, we will start today's meeting with the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Poses no changes to your agenda this evening.
Thank you, Will. Do any commissioners have any changes to the agenda? I see none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Diaz, a second by Commissioner Kreiner. Please take vote.
Commissioner Fuentes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Chair Ving.
Yes, motion passes. So under the consent calendar, we have item 5A, ID 221110. This matter will be continued until July 20th. Do we have any reports by commissioners? I see none. Next, we're going to move to continued matters. Under continued matters, we have item 221109. This is a continuing from June 15, 2022. This is pertaining to about 5.5 acres of property located on the southwest corner of West Bullard Avenue and North Del Mar. May I please ask staff for the presentation?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Aubrey Richardson, and I am with the current Planning Department. Tonight, you will be taking consideration of rezone application P22451 and the related environmental finding. The subject property is on 255 West Bullard Avenue, the southwest corner of West Bullard Avenue and North Del Mar Avenue. The property to the north of the subject property is zoned for multifamily housing, and to the east and south for single-family housing, and to the west for business and professional offices. The rezone requests authorization to rezone the subject property from public and institutional with a condition of zoning to the public and institutional zone district, or public and institutional with conditions of zoning to remove or modify the existing condition of zoning. In 2001, rezone application R41 was approved and rezoned the subject property from single-family residential to business and professional offices, with the condition that only a school or a college can be developed. In 2015, there was a citywide rezone that rezoned the subject property from CP to public and institutional with a condition of zoning. In your staff report, Exhibit J refers to the use table for public and institutional zone district. However, there are a few examples listed above. A few of the uses permitted in the zone district are daycare centers, community gardens, major utilities, farmers markets, social service facilities, student housing, public and private schools, and waste transfer facilities. For an extensive list, please refer to Exhibit J in your staff report. Staff received substantial communications voicing concerns about transparency, traffic, and noticing. The public and institutional zone district is consistent with the general plan public facility land use designation that was analyzed in the PEIR. And the property owner also held a neighborhood meeting on June 29th to allow community members to ask the property owner directly any questions. The municipal code requires that staff send a notice to property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject property. However, staff sent notices not only to property owners, but to tenants as well within 1,000 feet of the property on June 10th. Tonight, I present you with 3 options to recommend to City Council. The first option is to deny the rezone application to remove the condition of zoning. If this option is selected, please note that you would have to make your own findings from the municipal code. Option 2 is to adopt the environmental assessment and approve the rezone application to remove the conditions of zoning. If this option is selected, you can adopt the draft findings in Exhibit M of your staff report or make your own findings based off of the municipal code. Option 3 is to adopt the environmental assessment and recommend approval with conditions to modify the conditions of zoning. If this option is selected, then you can adopt the draft findings in Exhibit M or make your own findings. Staff recommends that you adopt the environmental assessment and approve with conditions of zoning for the rezone application. We recommend the following conditions: a 6-foot wall along the south property line, limited access from Del Mar, and the use of emergency shelters and social service facilities. This concludes staff presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Hi, would you mind repeating the conditions you just stated that
Yeah.
staff recommends?
Yes, so the 3 conditions that staff recommends is a 6-foot wall along the south property line, limited access to Del Mar, and the use of an emergency shelter or social service facility.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you elaborate on the social services living? What does that mean?
Yes, let me pull up the definition for you. So according to our code, any non-commercial facility such as a homeless shelter or facilities providing social services would be permitted as long as they're there for less than 30 days.
Thank you.
We have any other questions from the commission?
Yes, is there, I know there's not currently a proposed project, but is there an anticipated project or an anticipated buyer of the property?
I would defer that question to the property owner.
Chair Vane, Commission members, Will Tackett, Planning and Development Department. Just to elaborate on staff's recommended conditions of zoning. So the code does require a minimum 6-foot-high wall along the southerly property line. We measure the height of that wall from the higher of 2 grades when there's a grade differential between properties, and it is staff's acknowledgement that there is a grade differential. So the current height of that wall from the subject property side does not meet the minimum 6-foot requirement, and that's why we're recommending that any future use on the property be required to raise that wall to the minimum 6 feet required by code. The limited access to Del Mar would be limited to emergency and or service vehicles, so no public access from Del Mar. And the commission can choose to prohibit uses on the property. Staff is only recommending that you not prohibit social service facilities and emergency shelters. Items like waste transfer facilities, recycling facilities, major utilities, some uses that are permitted in that district, subject to a conditional use permit, might be something you consider prohibiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Any questions from the commission? Thank you. Should we allow the property owner to speak now, or? Let's go ahead and have the property owner. Is he in the chambers or is he online?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brady McGinnis. I'm actually an attorney and real estate consultant that's working with the property owner. I will note the property owner is also available, located out of state, but she's available on Zoom to answer questions to the extent you have those as well. I wanted to give a little bit more background or information. And by the way, my address is 7090 North Marks. I'm a longtime Fresno resident myself and lifelong resident of Fresno myself, and I know that area where the project is very well. I'm very familiar with it. To give you a little bit of background and context on the property, it was used by the Milan Institute for a number of years. They were unsuccessful in their endeavors largely because of COVID, and they had to shut down. I actually worked on having to terminate that lease because they were supposed to be in there a lot longer. And the property, so that you can understand, was heavily marketed for a pretty extensive period of time. And right now, the limitations on use are limited to school or a college. And the bottom line is, and I think unfortunately it's largely a result of the COVID circumstances as well as just potentially the location too, that's not really a viable project at that site anymore. So obviously what we want to do is open it up to its existing zoning, eliminate the conditions that would prohibit additional uses that fall within that classification, and allow the property owner to potentially be able to sell the property. And some background on the property owner, it's owned by a family that's a longtime Fresno family, the Austin Enterprises. Rick Austin, who was the patriarch, passed away from COVID about 1.5 years ago. So the family has really had to kind of step in to try to work through some of the projects, in particular ones like this that are vacant. And they're trying to do the right thing, but they're also trying to make these properties productive and useful again. And I think it's important that you understand on that right now, they've been spending a lot of time and money with security resources and just overall maintenance and management, because as you probably would anticipate, a property located on Bullard Avenue, which is easily accessible off Bullard Avenue, is, when it's vacant, a real safety issue and problem for the neighborhood. So I know they have daily security out there, and they've had to deal with a lot of vandalism, including broken windows and some other things too. So really the goal here is not to hit it out of the park, it's just to make the property productive again. But in the prior hearing, we weren't able to disclose who the prospective buyer was. That buyer is in feasibility, in escrow right now, and they have some restrictions and limitations, and we had a non-disclosure agreement that restricted us as well. And a lot of that had to do with the licensing and the work they were doing to try to get the ability to operate what they were trying to do there. With the concerns and the issues that were raised by the neighborhood, we had a neighborhood meeting that occurred last week. It was actually followed up with another meeting, and at that time we did get the permission to introduce the prospective buyer. And it's important to understand they're in feasibility, so nothing is locked in or nothing is necessarily approved at this point, but it's the Marjorie Mason Center, and they're looking to be able to really develop something that is a positive, solid location, that's a safe location, that's well maintained. And as you probably know, if you know the site, it's a fairly healthy sized site. It's over 5 acres. It's got a nice office and administrative building in the front, and it's going to have really good usage for an administrative side for them if they are able to ultimately get state approval for the site. So in short, what we're trying to do is just open it up to its existing zoning. We want to be productive in getting this property back to use. We would aver that this use is probably less intensive by way of traffic and otherwise than a school or a college is. So some of the traffic risks and concerns that have been raised, I think, are legitimately mitigated by a user such as Marjorie Mason. Secondly, getting this away from being a vacant, unused parcel, no matter how good the security is going to eliminate some of the adverse impacts and effects that happen when a property is large, it's darker at night, and it's available for people to come in and utilize when they're not supposed to be. So I'm available. I will be here to answer questions. The brokers are actually here too if there's any questions, but they can really verify the fact that we really did try to find another school and institutional use, and it just doesn't exist right now.
Brady, question for you. I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but has Marjorie Mason Center, have they reached out to the local community to have any kind of interaction with them at all?
They have. They actually participated in the meeting last week, and they then had a follow-up meeting with the neighborhood that was on Friday. So they've had 2 separate meetings. I believe they've actually invited them to their facilities. They really want to be neighborly. They want to do this right. The beauty is it's off of Bullard. It's a larger site, so there's nice opportunities for setbacks, and they really manage a very secure operation. And at that meeting, I want to make clear, too, that there was some folks from the police force there supporting and providing input on the safety of their current facilities and how good of a job they do with the security at their facilities.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
I do. What happens if Marjorie Mason Center falls off of escrow? What happens to
Well,
that?
we're gonna keep marketing the property. So it's a matter of trying to find a user that can put it to use. And I mean, whether that's a tenant or a buyer, the bottom line is the worst thing you can do with an infill project is let it remain vacant. And the concern we have right now, whatever that user is the way it's currently conditionally zoned, it's really restricted and limited, and it very likely is going to be vacant for a long period of time.
Madam Chair, question.
Yes.
Sir, is the Marjorie Mason Center the only prospective buyer or tenant at the current moment?
Yes, yes. And they're in escrow right now, but again, it's in feasibility.
And one more question. How long has the building been vacant? One more time.
It's been, I believe it's over 1.5 years. It's been quite a while. I worked on the termination agreement that was in the fall, so they were out of there, I think, through most of COVID, so it's probably longer than that as well.
Thank you.
About fall 2020.
Yeah, they were out for a while. I'm probably way off on my estimates, but I know it's been an issue that's unfortunately one of the consequences of the COVID pandemic.
Do you have any questions from the commission? Any other ones? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
All right, now we'll move to the public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment in favor of the application? If you are a member of the public on Zoom and would like to comment on an item, please use the raise hand function. And again, this is for members of the public who are in favor of the project. Please state your name, address. You have 3 minutes.
It's Josie Almeida, and I live at 5654 North Poplar. I'm here to represent a number of us from the neighborhood that are here presently and some via Zoom. On May 18th, a number of us came before you to express our concerns regarding the rezone application, the lack of communication and transparency regarding the rezone, and the fear of having the property values being severely affected. Since then, our agenda item regarding the rezone has been continued multiple times until today. However, in the interim, we did meet with our council member, Tyler Maxwell, and the interested buyer of the property, as was now disclosed as Marjorie Mason Center. As a result, some of us feel that the organization who would like to purchase the property will be a reasonable option, and thereby we understand the rationale for the rezoning clarification change requirement. However, if the rezoning restrictions are modified as petitioned by the City of Fresno, we have reservations if the interested buyer, Marjorie Mason, does not purchase the property once it is executed. Okay? So therefore, we would like to request that a stipulation is incorporated in the rezone in the event that the current buyer, Marjorie Mason, does not purchase the property. The stipulation would include the removal of the land use regulations as previously discussed on May 18th and shared with Councilman Maxwell on June 21st at our neighborhood community meeting, such as, but not limited to, substance abuse center, emergency shelter, multi-unit residentials, or have the rezone classification revert back to its original zoning state. Again, that's if Marjorie Mason does not move in there. By including the stipulation, we would feel better about not being subjected to a bait and switch situation. Since effective leaders are empathetic, active listeners, and focus on team involvement, we would like to request that you demonstrate effective leadership by giving us the respect and opportunity to provide our input and work with us in implementing our ideas proactively. We know our neighborhood best and certainly have invested interest in its success.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other individuals within the chambers? Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes, miss.
Yes, my name is Priscilla Aguayo, and I live at 252 West Celeste Avenue. I wanted to thank you, commissioners, for asking the questions that we were also asking as a neighborhood. And on June the 29th, Wednesday, June the 29th, Austin Enterprise invited the neighborhood to have a meeting. And there we found out the prospective buyers. Now, I know we had a list of use of regulations, land regulations, but it was a nice, pretty list that was put in front of you. But we're very concerned that if the sale does not move forward with Marjorie Mason Center, that it could also consist of the classifications of an emergency shelter, which Marjorie Mason does do that, but we don't want a different organization to be there. We really want them to be there. And we're being supportive. We're receiving them with open arms. Once we found out that they were the ones, they've reassured us about security. They don't have a security, but they have employees that have cameras. So we appreciate everything that Nicole and Charity has pretty much answered our questions and our concerns. Now, regarding the wall, I was informed that it's possible that it can be put up to 7 or 8 feet, not 6 feet. And the reason why is for safety for the people that will be using that resource, and also for the safety of them, possible teenagers wanting to jump the fence. So I'm very concerned about the height of the fence, and that's for security purposes. Anybody can go through my property and jump a 6-foot fence and get to whoever they want to get to. So my concerns are those that, if it doesn't go through with Marjorie Mason, I would like it to be reverted back to the rezoning that it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes, Ms.
Hello, my name is Nicole Linder. I'm the Executive Director of the Marjorie Mason Center. Thank you so much for having us here. Technically, Marjorie Mason Center's address is 1600 M Street, but I currently also live in the city of Fresno as well. As you've heard today, obviously this is a complicated situation. Over 2 years ago, the Marjorie Mason Center, who is Fresno County's only dedicated provider of domestic violence services, started looking for new options. We currently use donated facilities that are over 100 years old, and we have spilled out and leased out additional sites in the community because of bandwidth, and we are landlocked where we currently are. The volume that we serve in our community is high, and we needed a place that was able to match that. The pandemic hit, and like everybody, we went into a different triage mode and started looking for a lot of places. This is a perfect location for us. It is a third of a mile from Blackstone. It's next to the one bus line, so it's highly accessible because we do serve the whole community. And yet it is nestled in a neighborhood that is filled with love and neighbors who are also committed to being as neighborly as we would like to be. Ultimately, everybody is right. We don't own the property. We are in escrow. We still are in the site investigation period. We would not have gone through. We are a very confidential location based on the work that we do, and we had to get permission from the state to be able to have these conversations. And ultimately, we would not have gone through this process had we not been very, very sure of our desire to proceed. That being said, I do know that there are land use issues. We cannot occupy a facility that is, the conditions are limited to a school or college. So I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other individuals within the chambers who would like to speak in favor of this project? Do we have any online? If you are online, please use the raise hand function.
We do.
Hi everyone, this is Nasreen Johnson. I live at 176 West Morris Avenue in Fresno. I'm off of Del Mar. I'm one house away from this project, and I recognize that many of the neighbors, had some concerns about what this project will be, and I feel really good about the project, especially knowing who the prospective buyer is and their intended use. They're a trusted organization, and I know everyone's protective of their neighborhood because that's where we live and where we're raising our families, and my 2 kids live there with me. However, I think this would be a great use, and I would like to see the restrictions allow the Marjorie Mason Center to obtain that site for their plans. And I would like to see that fence, particularly on the south side, but also along the east side, raised, because when you're on the property side of that fence, it does kind of look down into the neighborhood, and so it makes it easier to jump from that side into the other side, and I think for safety reasons that should be addressed. but I was fine with the other stipulations that are recommended from the city. So I just would like to encourage everyone to hear the neighbors, and I think that from the ones that I've talked with, we're pretty satisfied with the additional knowledge we've been provided. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and let the next speaker speak. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Jody Austin. I'm actually representing Austin Enterprise. We're the owners of the property. Just wanted to let everybody know that I'm here and I'm open for any questions that you might have. I think Brady and Nicole covered everything pretty well. I'm excited about Marjorie Mason coming in, and it feels good to be able to be transparent about what we would like to see happen with the property. It was hard before when we couldn't disclose because of our non-disclosure that we had to sign. So anyway, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and let the next speaker speak. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Brandi Villegas, District 7. I want to show support for that. As soon as I heard it was Marjorie Mason, I got very excited because I know I just assisted some people and I work who are unhoused, and there is a huge need. And I hope that this is used as a shelter, as that is very much needed. I believe that I live near one. And it has not been problematic at all. And I do, and so I want to support that. And I'm glad that they've had a chance to meet. I've been hearing the concerns over the last couple of months, and at the same time, do want to ask that and support the city's suggestion that not omitting the use of social services or shelter from the list. I hope this does not fall through. It sounds like it's pretty confident, but I think that there needs to continue to be conversation with communities before things go in, and I think that would help. We have a huge need to have more multi-use housing, more affordable housing, more transitional housing, like Crossroads Villages in my neighborhood. And with understanding and good management, these can be assets in the communities, and I believe that those concerns could be raised. So as that there would be in the event that for future use, if it's not for this, that there would still be an opening for meeting these needs in the community in a way that is managed well and properly. I very much support Marjorie Mason being in this property, and I appreciate that there has been efforts made to communicate with the neighbors regarding this.
All right, thank you, Brandi. Let's go ahead and let the next individual speak. Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, it's Marcia Vanderpool. Hello, Bullard High peeps. I miss you all. We'd like to welcome Nicole and the Marjorie Mason Center to Bullard Heights. We're very excited about it. I would like to speak out, though, about how we have gotten here. It's been a really rocky road, and it's because it's very difficult to trust the city. We've already had a bait and switch at the other end of the block. And the developers or the city planners, whatever you want to call them, they have not been transparent, not only with the project, and I understand why the project had to be concealed. They have not been transparent with procedures. And it's very difficult to understand what's been going on until Marjorie Mason shared with us. And we were having this lovely meeting with Marjorie Mason, and it was one of her supporters who came on with Nicole, who blurted out, "Our city is broken." That's what he said. Our city is broken. And that's why people don't trust what's happening. And so I'm asking all of you, planners, commissioners, whoever's listening to this, who has a say in how things are run with the city, unbreak our city so we can trust you again. And that's all I have to say, other than welcome Nicole and family, and we will be great. We will have a great time together because we're a really loving neighborhood and we're going to have a blast. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other individuals on Zoom who would like to speak?
Did that make sense?
Joe, I believe you are on. Please state your name, address, and you have 3
Hi.
minutes.
All righty. My name is Joe LaFrezo. I live on Del Mar, about 5 or 6 homes down from the property. After I agree with what everybody has said as far as the transparency and this and that, and I support the Marjorie Mason Center. It's a great organization. They do a lot of good for people, and they have a great name, and I'm fine with that. What my proposal is that if for any reason they don't get the property, that there would be a contingency stating that it would go back to the original zoning of the property for schools, etc., so that something else doesn't come in that would possibly bring our property values down. I don't feel that the Marjorie Mason Center will bring our property values down, but I feel some other organizations may, if that zoning is changed for someone else. So basically, I'll say it again. I support Marjorie Mason Center. I hope they get it. But if they don't, I would like the contingency being put in there that it would revert back to the original zoning. And that's basically all I have to say. And good luck to Marjorie Mason Center.
Thank you. Janice, do we have any other individuals?
I'm adding these two again because I believe there's a second person.
Okay.
Hi, Leland Vanderpool. I'm Marcia's husband. We live at the corner of Celeste and Del Mar, just catty corner from the parking lot of the property in question. I do want to reiterate that I would like to see Marjorie Mason move forward and get in there. We feel very good about it. We are reluctant and do want, if for any reason Marjorie Mason's deal falls through, that the conditional zoning go back to where it is right now, and then the process can start over. So there's a little safeguard for our neighborhood that we have some say-so in the next possible person to negotiate that property. I'd also like to thank city planning for pulling our neighborhood together. Your sloppy communications, shoving notifications in the junk mail, and sloppy written notifications, confusing date-wise, really helped pull our neighborhood together. I think if your communication would have been a little bit more clear and concise, we wouldn't have gotten so worked up. But getting worked up pulled us together. I know a lot more neighbors in my neighborhood. I feel really connected these days. And I've got you to thank. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Janice, we have any other individuals on Zoom? who would
That
like to
is
speak?
it.
All right, perfect. Now, we're going to go ahead and allow for comment for opposition. We do? Okay.
Your name.
Yep.
Say your name.
Okay, Duran. All right, Duran.
Okay. So this is my brother. He's almost going to be 60. His name is Manuel Duran III, and he lives at my residence, 252 West Celeste. I'm his conservator, so I'm able to speak on his behalf. I've had my brother for 12 years now. I'm taking care of him full-time. And my concerns are that the land usage, if Marjorie Mason does not go through, I'm concerned that there could be, under the PI, public institution, with the removal of the conditions of zoning, there can be a multi-unit complex there, which means apartment complex that have multiple floors. My concern is that he does a lot of exercise in the backyard. He sits out there with the dogs, so forth and so on. My concern, if Marjorie Mason Center does not go in there, he's not going to feel comfortable sitting out there with people looking over into our yard. I'm not going to feel comfortable with that. And I feel that there's a concern on safety as well. So, and also reverting back to the land usage, it can also be a substance abuse center, and I don't want that in my backyard also for safety reasons. So out of concern for my brother and also the environmental impact that would be, I just want to, we're hoping that Marjorie Mason Center does go in, but if it doesn't, if it falls out, we just want there to be reverted back to the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Eva Aguayo. I live at 252 West Celeste Avenue. I'm 15 years old. I also wanted to just agree that I would like the Marjorie Mason Center to be in there, and I appreciate Commissioner Diaz bringing it up, like what if it falls through? So I would want, if it falls through, for the conditions to stay the same. Because an emergency substance, a multi-residential, something looking into my backyard is just not ideal for my safety or my neighborhood safety. And we just would want those conditions to revert back to the original instead of leaving it wide open to anything that could possibly threaten our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Rodney Delara. I live at 212 West Browning on the corner of Browning and Del Mar, just next door to Joe LaFrezo. I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. I'm here today with the group, with Patricia and Josie and the rest, to support Marjorie Mason Center. But let me tell you a little bit about our so-called relationship with the owners of the property. 2 instances. On June 14th, we were promised a Zoom meeting. We weren't notified that it was canceled until 1 day after by mail. That's how much they respect the neighbors. On June 29th, when they had the Zoom meeting with us, they spent 50 of the 60 minutes trying to sell us something. We had 10 minutes to ask questions, 10. We don't trust the owners or the representatives. If it wasn't for Nicole and Charity at the Marjorie Mason Center, we wouldn't support them. They were kind enough to have a Zoom meeting, unlimited time to answer all our questions and take all our concerns. Unlimited. They spent an hour and a half with us. We appreciate that. That's the only reason we support them in there. Not because of the owners, not because of the city. But we want that zoning restriction to return to the original if Marjorie Mason Center doesn't go in there. I live down the block. I walk my dogs past that property twice a day. I see what's gone on over there. I live there. I experience it. We don't want homeless or any issues, and we won't have that with Marjorie Mason Center. Anything else goes in there without those zoning restrictions, we're going to have problems. So please, take that into consideration, what we asked for, that if Marjorie Mason Center does not go in there for some chance, there's no chance of a bait and switch. And those restrictions of zoning return, so it'll stay and maintain as an educational or a trade school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other individuals within the chambers who would like to speak in favor of this project? I see none. We'll now move to public comment in opposition of the application. Do we have any individuals within the chambers who are in opposition? If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. Janice, do we have any individuals on Zoom?
There are no hands at this time.
All right, thank you. I see none in the chambers. Does the staff want to make any comment in regards to the public input?
Chair Vane, Commission members, with respect to the wall, the minimum requirement by the municipal code is the 6 feet that staff has mentioned. However, that zone district does permit that wall to go up to a maximum of 7 feet, and there is some tools in our toolbox subject to the discretion of the director, where if a minor deviation is applied for by the property owner and approved subject to the findings of section 155607 of the municipal code, that wall could go up to as much as 8 feet. It is important to note at that height, it will require a permit. Retaining may be required, engineering may be required. So I don't know how that wall is currently built, but that's just something to consider. It can go up to 7 or potentially 8 feet in height. With respect to substance abuse clinics, they would require a conditional use permit. So if they are permitted to occur in that zoning, it would require noticing prior to approval to the same neighborhood that has represented themselves this evening, same radius, 1,000 feet. Multifamily residential is permitted only as on-campus housing as part of an accredited school. So if there's not a school there, multifamily is not permitted. Thank you.
Will, question for you, Will. On the 6-foot wall, is that going to be the responsibility of the current owners, or if Marjorie Mason moves in, they would be responsible for that?
If placed as a condition of zoning, it would be best to do that for whomever the property owner is at the time or the prospective user. That would ultimately be an agreement between the user and the property owner. But should a user apply for a zoning clearance with the City of Fresno to obtain a tax license or approval of the subsequent use or apply for future development, that condition of zoning would assure that, the height of that wall is increased at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions for Will?
Chair, I just had one more thing that I wanted to add, because I think it's really important that it's very clear to the neighborhood that what you're going to recommend approval to the City Council for is a use, not a user, a use. So the land use would run, the permissions that are provided tonight would run with the land, not with a user, and that cannot be restricted. You cannot specify what tenant or what user would be in a facility. Just like you can't choose who your neighbor is that buys the house next door, right? So it is the use that you are debating on tonight. What are the uses on that table? Staff has made a recommendation for certain uses to be permitted, so removed from the restrictions and to be permitted, but everything else to remain on the restricted list. But you can make a recommendation to City Council to change those potential uses. Our recommendation is to open the box just a little bit to allow for the social service facility and emergency shelter.
And then, Will, you mentioned that the south property line isn't currently up to the 6 feet required by the code. Is the same true of the east property line?
The standard of the code that requires a screening wall between a non-residential use and a residential use, or a residential use of 4 dwelling units adjacent to single family, does not apply to the easter property line. It does apply to the southerly property line. That having been said, the easter property line wall could also be raised to 7 feet or more, subject to approval of a minor deviation.
Do we have any other questions for Will or the staff?
I don't. Hi, this is Brad. I don't have any questions, but I do support this project. I think it's great that more of these are going in different districts, and I'm ready to make a motion.
I do want to make a comment too. I think this past couple months or so, since we've initially seen this application come through our door, I appreciate the amount of effort that the owner and the owner has had in regard to the interaction with the community itself. I know it's difficult. I know I heard a lot of negative things about the staff of the City of Fresno, but we all need to understand that there is an NDA in place too, where there's only a certain amount of information that is going to be released to the public itself. So I hope that everyone is sensitive to that. I'm a firm believer that the staff is doing the best that they can with what they have going on too. So please understand that situation. But I really do appreciate, I commend the owners that you guys are open to this communication. I appreciate the fact that Marjorie Mason Center had a conversation with the community too, to make sure that they feel more comfortable with the project itself. Okay. Do we have any comments from the commission?
I'll just reiterate something that staff mentioned. The first is that under this zoning that's being proposed, multi-unit residential would not be allowed unless it were affiliated with an accredited school. And also, let's see, substance abuse treatment clinics would also be subject to a conditional use permit, so it would have to come back for further approval and for further noticing to the residents. So I just wanted to highlight those points that that staff provided us.
Do we have any other comments from the commission?
Brother Chair, I want to. I'm in awe of this community. I really am. I'm reading, as I've read some of the public comments that were sent in May, and to see the disagreements of the past, but the possible reconciliation, it says a lot about where the leadership of our city would like to go. And to hear the support from the community, even though there was previous disagreements and still some unsettled feelings that you have or some have with our city, with our staff, I'm proud to see the unity of community and the reconciliation that is taking place as a pastor, I guess you can say, with community and staff. So I think past is past, but if we can push forward to the future for what's best for our city and what's best for our community, especially if said individuals do step into our community, this night tonight is probably one of a night that I'm proud of, to see the amount of unity that you guys have together and the amount of respect in-house I've seen to our staff. And to Will, I must say, brother, every time you stand just to kind of give us further information, I'm always in awe of you. I love your hair too, but I'm always in awe of you, brother.
Thank you for the comments. Do we have any comments by the commission or any motion by the commission?
I would like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I second.
Are we doing this without any kind of conditions? Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, no conditions.
So let's clarify, because we will need to do a resolution. Are you recommending the removal of all of the conditions of zoning from the parcel, or are you recommending the third option in the staff report, which is the approval with conditions, which Aubrey stated during her presentation? The condition of the wall, the limited access on Del Mar, and only opening to the additional uses of emergency shelter and social service facilities.
Yeah, I apologize. So I'm making a motion to approve staff's recommendation on the conditions.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Commissioner Hardy is making a motion with the conditions that a 6-foot wall is being built on the south side, limited access to Del Mar, and allow the usage of only social services facility and emergency shelter. Correct? Correct, Commissioner Hardy?
Yes.
And sorry, so ask another clarification. So I was under the impression that staff's recommendation was to not prohibit the uses for emergency shelters and social services facilities, but it sounds like the motion on the table is to limit the land use to only those uses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and to correct, my motion is staff's recommendation for approval with what they're recommending.
In that case, can we have clarification from staff on what the actual recommendation was? Because my understanding was that we weren't going to prohibit those uses, not that we were going to only allow those uses.
Right, so we're taking the conditions of zoning. Right now, the conditions of zoning, you can't do anything except the college and the trade school, right? So we're saying you can't do anything except college, trade school, emergency shelter, social service facility. So those three would be permitted, not restricted. Everything else on the list would be restricted.
Okay.
So the conditions of zoning remain on the property. We're just opening them just a little bit.
Just to those 2 extra uses.
Correct.
Okay.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner Hardy, second by Commissioner Kreiner. Let's please take vote.
Commissioner Fuentes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray,
Yes.
Chair Vane.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Next, we don't have anything under new matters. Next, we have reports by secretary.
Commission, I have some very sad news tonight. I am announcing that our wonderful current planning manager, Will Tackett, has had an amazing opportunity, and he will be leaving us at the end of the month to become the Community Development Director at the City of Madera. We're really proud of him and his accomplishments. He's been just a true rock for me ever since I've been here. He knows our code inside and out, our general plan, state law. He has just been amazing, and we are going to miss him greatly. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell him goodbye. But at the same time, I also want to announce that we are appointing Mackenzie Perez provisionally as our current planning manager. And then we will make a permanent decision in about a month. But Will's last day with the city will be July 28th. So Will, if you wanted to come up to the mic, I'll give you an opportunity.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I love this city, and I appreciate all of what you do. I know it's hard. You volunteer your time. I support this administration. I support this director. I am proud of my 18 and a half years with the city, and I am proud of our planning and development team. So obviously this is a hard decision for me. It's a rare and unique opportunity that I need to take. But I will look for opportunities to participate in this community in the future. And I am just, I've been honored. So thank you.
Well, I just want to praise you for all the effort that you put in with the city of Fresno for the past 18 years. I think I've been here for maybe, 5 years or so. And ever since I started, I mean, any kind of questions that I may have, I've always been super confident that I can always lean on you too. So, the fact that you're here, and I hope that the public sees that we have wonderful people who actually works for the city of Fresno that pour their heart into this. And I know that whenever I have a conversation with you, there's always that sense of pride in your work too. So I wish you the best of luck to you and your family. One of my favorite sayings in life is success is outside your comfort, and you're definitely pushing that boundary now. So best of luck to you and your family. Okay.
Wow, what news. Will, you're absolute stud, and we really appreciate all the years working with you, and you'll definitely be missed. Your knowledge is just phenomenal.
I appreciate you, Will. Thank you for everything that you do and that you have tolerated all those questions every time I call you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Commissioner Kreiner said, that I always appreciate when you come up to speak because you're always able to articulate the issues so well and clarify the issues. So I definitely think it'll be, a loss to the city, but to us as a commission as well. But, wish you the best in your new role.
And I too appreciate you. Well, I've been here a while, and as everyone else has said, you've always been there when we need questions answered, and you've been a true gentleman through many times when there maybe impolite comments made to you, and you've just been a gentleman about the whole thing, and I really appreciate that.
Well, you're my boy. This is a sad day, and I wish we could vote yes or no on this one. But I'll say this, brother. My favorite movie is Lion King. You know that. I love that movie. And if Jerry is Mufasa, and if we're like the Simbas, then you probably are Rafiki. You're the wisdom, the knowledge, and the person that keeps us together. And I remember the scene when Rafiki just went to the tree while Simba was in the wilderness. And all he really needed to do was to call on Rafiki for wisdom. Rafiki reminded him who he was. Brother, you're going to Madeira, but don't forget that we may call on you for wisdom. Just know that as long as we're here in Pride Rock, you always know how to get back to us.
I wish we'd known we could call him Rafiki.
Yeah.
That really fits.
It's your new name, bro, with the dreads and everything. My mother's in Madeira. My mother loves in Madeira. Take care of her. But don't forget, Fresno is always home. And if you forget, we'll find you and remind you. Love you, man.
Awesome, guys. Hey, so it's 7:01. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Brother Chair.